beautiful sunset as that sun drops just below that cloud line over there. It's going to be very, very beautiful. And I'm actually quite happy sitting up here because I think that for the moment there's been quite a bit of movement of animals through the area. There was some kudu who just disappeared through the bush. There's lots of guinea fowl still around. The impala is still around. So maybe, just maybe, they will alert us to anything else in the area. Sometimes just sitting and being patient can definitely help find other animals. It is quite chilly this evening. There's an impala. Sure, that wind is. Close the window, folks. Now, Mareka, the first impala lambs will arrive around about November, the beginning of November. That's when we always take bets closer to the time on what day the first impala lambs will arrive, but it's usually around that time of year, so November. And then you'll have a lot of young impala lambs running around, and then closer to December you'll start seeing young wildebeest calves. And so it's a lovely time of year, November, December. The start of summer gets very, very hot. Not as hot as January, February, but it does get hot. A lot of rain and a lot of bugs. If you're not a fan of bugs, it's not ideal, but December out up in the bush is a wonderful time. Very green and lush. The birds, so many birds, young animals around. It's very, very nice. We actually spend Christmas and New Year in the bush every year. My family, it's they love it. They really enjoy it, even though it's quite hot. But then you spend your Christmas around the pool, relaxing, and it's very, very nice, very enjoyable, very different to a white Christmas, but very nice nonetheless. Now I'm going to sit here a little bit longer and I'm going to sit a little bit longer for wait for the sunset. But Tristan has found a animal with patterns on it, but not the patterns he was looking for. Let's go and have a look what it is.
Well, indeed, Byron, that one didn't want to make friends with us, so now we've decided to go for a much taller, bigger version with spots all over it, and we found one of the most beautiful male giraffe that we have in this area. He is dark, dark, dark. Look at him, he's almost black in color, and very, very pretty indeed. And at the moment, at least, he's the only animal that's cooperating and actually standing still this afternoon and not moving away from us, so we can be thankful that he is around. Now, the reason why I'm in this area is because I found male leopard tracks moving around on Vulture's Nest, Nyala Road South, which is all the areas that I was looking yesterday for Hosana. But these tracks look far too big to be Hosana. They are massive, almost looks the size of Tingana's tracks, so I'm not quite sure. But the tracks are not 100% fresh. They're not something that's just walked in this area. Unfortunately, they've gone a little bit crusty from the rain. So what happens when it rains and drizzles just a little bit like what we had earlier, it's enough just to make a hardened layer on the road. And the track itself, the edges get quite crusty, and so if you touch the edge and it doesn't just move straight away, you know that it was just before the rain. So it's not tracks that are that fresh, but they are heading in this general direction, so we might as well have a look and see if we can't find it. But I'm with Byron on the sunset at the moment. It's just caught the corner of my eye because it's now just coming out on my left hand side as well. But there it is, you can just see it starting to dip down, and when that sun comes down underneath those clouds, all these clouds should light up and we should get some really beautiful colors coming down. And there couldn't be a better backdrop for our big bull giraffe that is relishing the bush that it's feeding off. It's having an absolute field day there at the moment. I was trying to see what tree it's eating, if it's whether or not it's eating off a tamboti, but it doesn't look like a tamboti. Oh, the light is so bad I can hardly see what it is. No, it's definitely not a tamboti. Is it? Could be. Like I said, battling to see even on the screen. I'm sort of dinginess of it and the small screen size, it's difficult to make out leaf shape from here. It could be a tambuti tree, and the reason why I was wondering if it's a tambuti is because giraffe are one of the unique species that feed off tambutis a lot. Now, a tambuti tree is a tree that is very toxic for people, and it's not a tree that you would want to eat, and you wouldn't want to be sort of shoving leaves down your throat like this giraffe is. And the reason why is because it has a milky latex that is highly toxic to us, and it can actually kill us. But the giraffes use it as a way of basically cleaning their gut system. So they'll swallow a whole bunch of leaves, and that will just cause them basically to go to the toilet and get rid of all the stuff that they're battling. Oh, nothing like picking your nose with your tongue. Well done, Mr. Giraffe. I just gave you a nice display of just how long a tongue can be. So, Shelley, you're wondering why the ears are white like that. Well, it's quite a sort of simple thing, and it's basically there to help giraffes see one another. So we see those black markings on the tip of a tail of a lion, the white tip to the tail of a leopard. You see the black markings on an impala, the white ring on a waterbuck, and the giraffe's ears are the exact same thing. Now, the reason why they have their follow me signal on the back of their ears is because a giraffe is a very tall animal, and so that's the best place to be able to see them. And often if you see giraffe right in the distance in the Kruger Park areas where it's quite foliated, the one thing that will stick out are these two white ears, and it'll draw your attention immediately towards those giraffe from from a long way away. And so that's how they see one another. They basically see those white tips of the ears, and that's how they follow. The rest of the animal actually blends in very well. If we go down towards the sort of rear end section, you'll see where the bushes are around the pattern, it actually becomes quite difficult to make out any sort of distinct shape. The legs blend in very well there, as you can see like that. So imagine that's far away. The legs would be quite tough to see in the body itself in a thicket, but those white ears contrast heavily against the darkness of trees, and that's how they're able to see one another. Now, the reason why I know he's a male is perfectly highlighted by that head there. You can see those bald ossicones on top, and that's modular, well, not modular, I don't know why I said that. They have that sort of bony deposits on the forehead in front of the horns that all indicate male. If it was a female, much thinner ossicones, and they would have a flattened forehead, and not like what you see there with this particular giraffe. Now, Jess, you want to know how long a little giraffe or baby giraffe will stay with its mother? Well, that is sort of a dependent thing. Generally, they stay with the mother for about 2-3 years. It sometimes is a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. It just depends on how the baby feels. At the end of the day, giraffe have the most loosest social structure of all of our animals, and so there's no tie to the mother like in a matriarchal herd of elephants where the babies are absorbed into the herd and they stay together forever. Sometimes you'll find young giraffe will move off, go join another group, then they're from there will go to another group, and then they come back to their natal unit, and it just kind of moves around like that. They all just mix and match as much as possible, and so they reckon that no giraffe herd within the Kruger system stays the same for long periods of time. There was a study that was done, and they said within 24 hours most of the herds, in fact 99% of the herds, actually changed, and some members left and came in. And so it just shows you how transient they are and how much they move around within the herd. So the babies don't really have a huge tie to mom. They often will then leave mom and go off on their own fairly early on in their development. Hey, big guy. Now, a giraffe is always an interesting animal to watch when you're tracking predators, because they generally will see things a lot earlier than you will. And so you'll find if they stop and they stare into a thicket, that could be potentially where a predator is. So sitting around a giraffe when you've got tracks of predators close by is never the worst thing at all. Now, machine gun nest, you say beautiful. Well, it is, isn't it? With the colors in the background there, we've almost got these kind of pinky clouds that are starting to develop, and with that dark black sort of neck of the giraffe, it's quite a nice contrast between the two of them. So very, very pretty indeed. He's a beautiful specimen. Now, there's a lot of fallacies about giraffes' coloration and that males are always darker than females. It's not actually the case. I've seen females that look just as dark as this male, so it's more a genetic thing. But in a general sort of situation, you find the males tend to darken with age and become more sort of filled with testosterone, which can in turn produces melanin and then causes this darker coat to form. But you can sometimes see it in females as well. But this guy is particularly dark in comparison to a lot of the other giraffe we see here. Some of the males that we see are much lighter in coloration. Now I see on his shoulder there, he's got a bit of a wound. I'm just trying to see if it's a wound itself or if it's a bit of mange that he's got. Giraffe do suffer from mange as well as a virus where they get these big growths on them. But that's mange, it's not a growth system. You can see when they get these growths, it's almost like big calluses that develop all along their neck and down their sort of heads and back areas. But that's just a bald patch, so that's an area that's very itchy, and that giraffe has scratched it. And because of the mange, which is a little mite that's in the hair follicle, it becomes very itchy and they scratch it and then they lose a bit of hair there. But otherwise, he's in beautiful condition. He's in the prime of his life. His forehead hasn't actually gotten too knobbled just yet, and so he's in a situation where he's still going to get a little bit bigger, and you'll find that that forehead is going to thicken up and going to become far more gnarly and sort of bulbous on the top of the eyes, and you'll find that's going to be used as a big battering ram later in life. The other indication of his age in terms of him being a younger bull as opposed to an older bull is look at his ears. His ears are perfect. There's no nicks, there's no scrapes in those ears. As giraffe get a little bit older, so they'll start to get little nicks in there and the ears become a bit more tatty like most animals. So I would say that this is a giraffe that's in his prime, probably anywhere between sort of 7 and 10 years old would be my guess as to where he is in terms of his age. And his skull is definitely going to get bigger and bulkier as he goes. But look at that camouflage. Isn't that amazing? Babukile, you want to know how giraffes sleep. Well, giraffes, this is quite an interesting one, because giraffes, out of all of our animals here, actually don't sleep for that long at all. They'll only sleep about 20 minutes a day. So they in a true sleep for 20 minutes, and generally when they sleep like that, what they'll do is they'll find a fairly open section and they'll sit down. So they'll fold their legs and then their neck stays straight up, and the reason why their neck stays straight up is because the way the ligaments are attached, they're attached in a way that the neck is held up. They actually have to exert energy to pull their neck down. So it's the opposite of what we have as humans. We exert energy to hold our neck up. When we get sleepy, our neck flops forward. It's different for a giraffe. A giraffe actually has to try as much as possible to pull that neck down when it wants to drink or feed. And so when they sit down like that, they can then close their eyes, and because of the way the ligaments are attached, the neck just stays straight up and they fall asleep like that. But that will only be a sort of 20-minute period. The rest of the day, their brain gets rest when they're actually ruminating. So you'll find in the hot period of the day, a giraffe will go under a tree, and while it's still standing, it will ruminate. And as that sort of rumination comes up, the brain almost goes into a hypnotic state where it has a period of rest so that the brain doesn't get damaged, but they're not in a full sleep. And that has to be the case for an animal like this, because they are hunted by predators, and so they need to be awake and they need to know what is going on. But very, very cool nonetheless. And you can see how he disappears once he just drops his neck down. Absolutely amazing camouflage. Right, onward and forward. Maybe we'll find the other animal spots that we were originally looking for, but while we do that, let's go across to Beefcake Byron and see what he's going to be doing this evening and whether or not his sunset panned out for him.
Well, Tristan, we were waiting for a sunset, a beautiful sunset, and instead we got clouds. The clouds have moved in. You can see a sliver of sun there, but it's messed with our sunset. Oh dear, we missed the the rainbow at the beginning of drive. We had it and it disappeared, and now the sunset has disappeared behind some clouds. But maybe that's just a sign that we need to go look for other animals. And what is that? A wildebeest on the airstrip behind me. Alright, now there goes a wildebeest across the airstrip. Just a lone wildebeest, probably a dominant male. Now, the wildebeest, the dominant males, it's quite interesting. So they probably get quite lonely, I wonder. But the male wildebeest will find an area and set up a small territory for themselves. Now, within that territory, there are a few necessities that they need. One is a rubbing post, so a tree or stump that they can go and rub up against. The other is a sandy patch that they'll roll around and dust bathe in. They do like to roll in the sand quite a lot. And that's it. And then hopefully water close by. And then these males will wait for herds of females to move past, and then he'll try and keep them within his territory for some time until he can mate with them. Now, it's unlike the Mara, where you just have thousands of wildebeest, or millions of wildebeest, in fact, in certain areas. And but here we do get these wildebeest and these males forming small territories for themselves, waiting for the females. Strange looking antelope. You wouldn't say they're part of the antelope family, would you? They do look almost buffalo-like, but they are indeed an antelope, part of the antelope family. And there he goes. Now, I think let us move on and continue as the wildebeest does the same. I hope you have a wonderful evening. You stay sharp. They obviously have to be very careful of predators, so good luck. Oh, it's cold out here on the airstrip at the moment. Oh. Let's see what else we can find. Come on, send out positive vibes and the bush will hopefully produce for us. Let's see. It's cooled down quite a bit. Maybe there's some predators that have started moving around, or are they too cold and just going to stay and rest in an area? Try and lie down in a drainage line perhaps. Oh, there's an elephant. Hold on. Elephant right next to us. Yes, don't go anywhere. Where are you going? There's a giraffe off to my right, but let's see the elephant. We haven't seen an elephant for a while. I know Tristan was showing you a giraffe. What I'm going to do is let's follow this elephant a little bit and see where it goes. Looks like a youngish male. Hold on, I'm just going to turn around. Val, you were asking how cold it is at Djuma at the moment. I don't know, maybe the ladies in the final control can give me an exact temperature. It feels like it's about, I would say, probably 12 or 14 degrees Celsius, but the wind that's been blowing, I think, has made it a bit colder. What is it? Let's see if they can give us an idea while we get into position with this elephant. Oh, there we go. See, positive vibes, everyone, and the bush has produced for us. Let's just have a look. This youngish elephant. Just a little shake of the head there. Sorry, Fergs, it flaps in the way a little bit. Okay. No, he's just hiding behind the tree. Looks like a young male. He's lifting his head a little bit. Hold on a second. I'm just going to try roll forward. Okay, no, I can't. I'm going to start the vehicle. Just get into a better position. My favorite. Let's see. There we go. Is that better, folks? There we go. Look at that. Lovely view of him. You can see, I think he's actually trying to listen out for us. Just to see, even though he's got his back to us, he's not feeding. And he did shake his head once or twice. Not really aggressive, maybe just a bit of a warning sign. We came around the corner and almost surprised him a little bit. As I said, I caught a glimpse of a giraffe behind us. It seems like that's just disappeared now, but the elephant at least has stayed and is very close to us. So there was a giraffe in that direction. Just shows you, when you least expect it, things happen. Now, Everett, you asked what is the biggest elephant I've ever seen. Now I'm trying to think. I've seen some really large elephants throughout the Kruger area and Botswana. I've seen so many elephant. The biggest one, I'm trying to think. I think I saw one year. I think I saw a big old tusker, a big male. We call the tuskers the big old males that have got those really large tusks. And I saw one bull 1 year on Londolozi, in fact, and that must have been the biggest one I saw. I think he was part of the Kruger had a number of elephant that were known as the Magnificent Seven, I think, or Magnificent Eight. I can't remember, but they were big bulls, old bulls, and I think most of them are dead at the moment. I'm not sure. How many are still alive? Huh?
Just at the moment.
Pardon?
Are they dead just at the moment?
No, sorry, they're dead. Yeah, they're dead. Not just at the moment, but they're dead just from age. Now those. Oh, hang on. Look at this. Look at this now. This elephant is kind of lifting his head and he's almost showing that he's not too happy with us being here. Our chatty Meg, you've just said that elephants are calming. They are. And I also think the way you sit and watch them, but I'm curious, this young bull, I think he's possibly just trying to test us a little bit. He's maybe got a bit of testosterone growing. He's trying to establish himself as a big bull, trying to show off a little bit. So as I was saying, these big tuskers that occurred in Kruger many years ago, and I think there might still be one or two around, they were huge elephant bulls that had massive, magnificent tusks, and they were all given names. They were easily identifiable by the tusks and the shape of the ears, and that they could ID them, and they were all given names. And there was a duke. There was I can't even remember all of them now, but the one's name was Duke. There was who else? Anyway, I can't remember all the names now. And there's also an elephant museum at Letaba, which is a camp in Kruger, and there they've got a lot of the history of those big elephants. Oh, you see, this guy's displaying a little bit. I don't know why. I mean, he doesn't seem too agitated by us, but he's definitely trying to show that he's big and strong. I just know elephants don't lose their tusks. They will break tusks, definitely. And I'm just going to move forward here, I think, a little bit. Just because these bushes are in the way. Now, Jess, they don't lose their tusks, but they can break their tusks. Now, if they break their tusks, then they don't grow back, unfortunately. Now, you see what I'm saying about this wonderful... Unfortunately, we don't have that golden light on this elephant, but just the dark background, the dark grey skies, it actually makes for a wonderful picture, something different. Hold on a second, I can hear lions calling. I'm just going to try here where they are. Just a very faint call of lions. It sounded like it was coming from south of where we are, so quite far in that distance. Now we won't be able to get there anyway, but I just wanted to hear if it wasn't maybe a bit closer. Very faint, far in that direction. So I'm not sure which lions those were. I wonder. There's our elephant starting to... Oh, sorry. These poles, I do apologize, everyone. These poles are sometimes tricky with the roofs. They are necessary. You know what, you might get a better view as he walks through here. Okay. No, he seems okay, but he's definitely got a bit of an attitude about him. And there he goes, but he's definitely not as comfortable as elephants usually are. Just see his body language and the way he's moving. Now, remember, I've mentioned this many times before, is that, you know, signs like that you need to take into consideration. And you could see he flapped his head at us once or twice in the beginning. He's got his ears open. He's lifted his head a few times. He hasn't stopped to feed. He's moving quite quickly. Now, in a situation like this, we've had a lovely view of him. I don't think it's necessary for us to continue following him and also risk aggravating him. You know, we've had a lovely view, as I said, and that's where I think often when people do find themselves in situations with elephant is because they push the boundaries, they keep trying to get closer, even though they can see that the elephant might not necessarily be that happy. He's moved off, so I think we're going to leave him now. What a lovely view of him, and lovely to see an elephant. I was hoping we'd find one. So let's see what else we can find. I'm going to head back. I'm going to turn around, head back that way, back towards Djuma. And while I do that, let's head back to the rather large individual that is Tristan.
Well, thanks, Byron. I'll accept the larger individual today. It's after all Amanda's good cooking. Last night we had the most amazing braai that Connor cooked for us, and Amanda did all these side sort of dishes. It was quite fantastic. Now, for those of you who don't know what a braai is, it's a barbecue, and in South Africa we call it a braai. And we had steak and chops and sausages, and it was all very, very good. Did we have sausages? No, we had chicken. Sorry. Getting a bit confused by all of this. And then the night before we had a burger night, and Amanda made us these ridiculously big, amazing burgers. So I suppose if we are looking all a little bit rounder, it's because Amanda's cooking has been so on point this week that it's been absolutely delicious. But our search for spots has been in vain when it comes to the predator kind, because we still haven't found anything. It's now starting to rain as well, which is probably not the best thing. And I've done a big loop around where I last had those tracks, and I can't find anything. There is a very deep drainage section here, and it's right where we lost that male lion the other day, the one that was walking in the mist, Nena. And so it's very dense, very thick in there, and in all likelihood that leopard could be lying right there, and there's no ways we would even know. So just coasting along as slow as possible, trying to see if we can't find anything in this particular area, and see if we... Well, I suppose it's time to start getting the spotlights out now as well, because it's getting quite dark. And I was interested that Byron heard, sorry, shouldn't I say, not saw, heard lions roaring, because I wonder... It could be, I suppose, there was an update that the sticks were on Vessels, so Vessels is pretty much in a westerly direction from where Byron is if he's on Chitwa, so it could be them. There was a Birmingham male on Arethusa as well, on Lowveld Link, which is actually not too far from Gari Main Triple M Junction, so I might start heading in that direction just in case that male decides to start moving and heads north a little bit up Triple M, or maybe, just maybe, comes a little bit east into Djuma. So that's where I'm going to try and start heading, I think. Other than that, the Ngumas sound like they went into Manyeleti. No sign of the Torchwood Pride, no sign of the Telematis, so the lions that he hears calling must be the Sticks or Birminghams that are having a little call down that way. But I'm hoping that the rain will just stay away long enough that we can at least finish our drive, because it's been polite enough not to come down while we've been driving around, and so I'm hoping that it's just going to continue that little bit longer, that we don't have to worry about getting too drenched. We've just rolled up all our sides, and really don't feel like taking them all down again. So Machine Gun Nest, you're wondering if the drive would be cancelled in heavy rain. Well, no, not necessarily. Generally, if it's really belting down, then we'll try and get one of us into the tent at least, if not both of us. So we go into the tent and we'll go and sort of seek refuge there and try and sort of provide some entertainment, really. And I suppose Byron in a tent is always entertaining, so we would definitely head in that direction. And if it really started to rain and the tent started to flood, then unfortunately we would have to call the drive off. But that's in a very rare circumstances. That won't happen very often at all, and so it's not likely that we would see that situation happening. Also, now with the Mara, we've got the situation where we've got two areas, and the likelihood of both sides being absolutely drenched to the point where we can't broadcast is going to become less and less likely. Obviously, we've still got a few little issues that we're ironing out in the Mara, but those will come out eventually, and hopefully soon we'll have a situation where we'll see Brent, James, Jamie, all three of them running a show from the Mara itself. So it's going to be exciting times ahead, and I'm sure it's going to be wonderful once they're all in and once they're all settled and we get everything going up there and the towers all in place. It's going to be spectacular, and with that migration arriving, there's going to be the most unbelievable sights, and just sheer beauty of seeing thousands of animals together is going to be quite wonderful. And then of course, well, we're here in the Sabi Sands and we get all the nice up close and personal and intimate situations, and so it's going to be such a nice combination between us and them going forward over the next little bit. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing how the two mix and just showcasing two of the most beautiful destinations in the world. Not only the Mara, but South Africa and the Sabi Sands is one of the most special places, and that's why it is so famous. So it's going to be a very cool next phase in Safari Live, and hopefully it will be a very successful one. Right, onward, forward. See if we can't get an update on where that male lion is and whether or not maybe he's moving towards our southern or western boundary. And while we do that, let's go across to Beefcake and see what Beefcake's plans are for the rest of the afternoon.
No, Tristan, if you call me Beefcake, I'm not going to tell you what my plan is. Oh, I'm going to find some elephants. That's what I'm going to do. Have a look here. We've just bumped into a herd. There's one right in front of us, and there's a little one just off to the side, to the right. There's a little baby. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's behind the pole. There we go. There you can see it. So a herd of elephant now. Wonderful. Trying to see if there's some others around that are still following. I can only see 3 of them at the moment, or there's some more through the back, I think. Yeah, now the thing is, we're starting to lose light. It's actually quite difficult to see them. Now, Rebecca, your question about elephants and if they see individuals and that on the vehicle. Now, I think that's linked to, and I could be wrong, Rebecca, but for a long time, now you know guides we do a pre-drive briefing with our guests. So we explain to them the do's and don'ts on safari. Don't hang out of the vehicle, don't stand up, don't move too much when you get close to the animals, etc., etc. Now, for a long time, they say the guide kind of introduction would be just stay seated on the vehicle, because the animals see the vehicle as a whole and they don't see people on the vehicle, so that's fine. I don't believe that is the case anymore. So in the beginning I thought, okay, that makes sense, but in my years of guiding and viewing different animals, I've definitely noticed that animals will look at individuals on a vehicle, and they definitely notice the people on the vehicle. I think, however, and that goes or is the same for elephant. It goes for elephant. The elephant, I do think they notice individuals on the vehicle. They can see them and they can pick them out, definitely. But they associate the people with the vehicle. So the vehicle is something that passes by regularly, and so even though they can see people on the vehicle, they think, well, the vehicle is something that passes by, so it's not a threat. So whatever that is on the vehicle can't be a threat. Now, when we stand out the vehicle and we're on our 2 legs and walking around, it looks a bit different, and then we appear to be a predator for these animals, so they react differently. But in terms of animals seeing people in the vehicles, yes, I'm almost certain they do, and I think they can indeed see individuals on the vehicle. Now, if you stand up and you move around too much, yes, then you stand out a bit more and you'll just cause more disruption. But the animals can definitely see individuals on the vehicles. Oh, now, these elephants are disappearing through the thicket, and we're starting to lose quite a bit of light now. I think it's almost time for the spotlight. Nice to see a little herd just passing by, even though it was for a brief moment. I think let's carry on, and then I'm going to get the spotlights out soon, maybe even now, and see what we can find this evening. Oh, I don't know. I wonder if anything's going to be out in this cold weather. Chitty Chatty Meg, you say, do I think there are cats in Djuma that we haven't seen, or that I haven't seen? Do you mean as in the large predators? Because I'm trying to think. There's definitely some of the leopards that I haven't seen yet. I'm just trying to think of all the names. Oh, can't remember. There's Shadow. I haven't seen Shadow. Yeah, I haven't seen Shadow before. That's the one leopard that I know I haven't seen. And then in terms of African wildcats, I haven't seen an African wildcat here, and I'm almost certain they occur in this area. Who else haven't I seen? In terms of the leopards you get around here, there are a few other leopards I think that I haven't seen. Again, new prides moving through the area, new males coming in at some point. That will happen probably while we're here, maybe while I'm not. New leopards coming in, that will also happen. Well, we 2 months ago saw a caracal. So that's another cat that I've never seen. I've never seen a caracal in the bush, but I'm hoping one day I will. I'm really, really hoping. Okay, we're going to head back towards Djuma. I've just come off Chitwa. We're on the main road heading back towards Djuma. Let's go across to my dear colleague, Tristan.
Well, Byron, I love when Byron starts with this because he likes to be extra nice, but then when we get back to the camp, then he just throws me under the bus all the time. So I always laugh when he starts to play nice like this. Well, I know then that when I get back to camp, it's coming and the abuse will start, which is okay. It's fair enough. It's the nice thing about Byron being around is that there is lots and lots of joking and carrying on, and generally the camp is filled with laughter. So always promises to be good, especially at night. Byron gets into full form at night, and then all his jokes start coming out, and he starts to really become the entertainer that we all know he is. Right, well, still no luck really regarding anything mammal-wise or even actually feathered friend-wise since our giraffe bull disappeared into the thickets. If there ever was a time for Shongile Hosana to come out, it would be now. Ah, David, you say a good time for aardvarks and pangolins, even though we've had a tough time of it with everything else. Well, yes, David, indeed. I would imagine that it would be not a bad time, and hopefully we will get lucky and one of them will pitch up at some point. I don't think, has there ever been an aardvark seen on Safari Live? I don't think there has been. Maybe one of the ones for some of the older viewers. Do you guys know? Have we seen an aardvark on Safari Live? I know there's been one pangolin seen before, which was last year, and that's the only pangolin, so we're definitely overdue on a pangolin. Let's hope that we can find one of those scaly armored little creatures roaming around. We're definitely due for one. So no pangolin. Well, we've got one pangolin, but I don't think aardvark. Aardvark is a tough one. All the aardvarks I've seen, funnily enough, have been late in the evenings, and either, getting home late from a game drive, so when you're supposed to be back at, let's say, 7 o'clock and you get back at 8 o'clock, around those sort of times, so quite well into the darkness that they come out, and I've never seen them really during the day. I know there has been 1 or 2 sightings. In Lion Sands there was one that was seen 3 times in about a week, crossing one of the main road that comes into the camp in the middle of the day. So there are ones that do come out in the middle of the day, but it's not that common at all. So it would be nice to find one of them. Unfortunately, we've got the aardvark eater that is the dominant male leopard in this area. Tingana is really quite fond of aardvarks, much as like Anderson. Both of them I've seen with aardvark kills. In fact, Tingana I think's racked up 3 or 4 now, and Anderson has had 2, and I've seen the Salalas eating 1. So that's all in this northern area. So the aardvark population has taken a bit of a hit in this area in the last few years with those animals around. It is the most insane thing though when you find these leopards with aardvarks, because you kind of drive along and there's this aardvark hanging from a tree, and it just looks so completely out of place and so abnormal. Kind of you have to take a second glance again to realize what this animal actually is. Ah, yes. So when do you say James found a dead aardvark? I remember that now, actually. I remember Dave telling me about it, so Dave, our cameraman, telling me about the time he and James found a dead aardvark, but I don't know what the story was. I remember something along the lines of that it was in a hole, but there was no visible damage to it, and I don't know what the actual story was or why it died. I'm not sure. Maybe when James gets back in the Mara, we'll have to ask him and find out what the actual story is and what happened there. I'm actually looking forward to James getting back. His humor is always contagious, and he's got such a quick mind that a lot of the time when you out and drive with him, and some of the links that come your way are highly entertaining. So I'm quite looking forward to James being back in the Mara as well. But we'll have to ask him and find out exactly what the story is. But yes, that sounded like a very strange situation, and I'm not quite sure what actually happened there. Who knows really? It could have been a multitude of things. Sometimes animals do die of natural causes, so it is possible. Ah, so I believe Byron, who of course is BFF with James, and the two of them really well, they go back so far that they love to spend time telling one another stories. Sometimes they even give each other little lullabies at night before they go to bed, and I've seen James tucking Byron in once or twice, and it sounds like James regaled his aardvark bedtime story to Byron.
Oh, Tristan, you're playing with fire. Oh, Tristan, you're playing with fire. Now, I'm trying to think now. The aardvark story I know, and I don't know, was it seen? I'm just trying to find out. I'm not sure who the viewer was that asked about this, but did James find one on Safari Live, or has it been in the past in the Sabi Sands? Because okay, so it was on Safari Live. Okay, I don't know that story about James finding an aardvark, but I know where in the years that I worked down at Londolozi, we had 2 aardvark sightings, and I say sightings, they were both dead aardvark. The one aardvark was being eaten by lions. They had caught it in the northern section of Londolozi, and then down in the south, in very big open areas. And funnily enough, a leopard caught another one and hoisted it up into a tree. Those are the only 2 aardvark sightings that I've ever had in the Sabi Sands. But they do occur here. We've found fresh tracks from the night before. We found aardvark burrows many times driving through these areas. There are aardvark here. It's just, I think they are so shy and so nocturnal. They come out right at in the middle of the night or early hours of the morning, and we don't see them. But sometimes the predators bump into them, like lion and leopard. I don't know about James's other story about finding an aardvark here. It sounds like he's made it up completely. No, I'm joking. I wonder where that was, or when that was. That's interesting, but very possible, because there are aardvark here, as I said, and they. Oh, so it was dead in a hole. Okay, that's interesting. Wow, that's amazing. Could very well have been from the drought. The aardvark do suffer from drought too, or suffer during the drought. And but yeah, so that's interesting. I don't hear that story from James. He doesn't share everything with me, Tristan. I think perhaps Tristan's a little bit jealous. I'll share a bedtime story with Tristan tonight. Ryan, no. You asked if an aardvark is seen during the day, is it perhaps an insomniac? I mean, just move up out of this dip. I think I'll see it up. I think it should be a bit better now. So, being an insomniac, but that's what happens. So in parts of South Africa, aardvark do come out during the day, and the reason for that is because the temperatures are so cold at night, and even during the day are cold. Up in the Kalahari where I was recently, now moving through into the real or really cold winter, we do see aardvark moving around during the day there. Usually early afternoons, maybe 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, we can find aardvark moving around, and that's because then late at night it just gets too cold and they don't like that very much, so then they'll probably go back into their burrows and rest and try and stay warm. Now take care. I haven't viewed enough aardvark. I've been fortunate that I've seen a lot of aardvark, but I don't know in terms of how territorial they are. Now I would say they are, because I've seen aardvark in areas, and I've seen the same aardvark a number of times in the same area. So I would say that they are territorial. They know the burrows. They'll probably have a number of burrows that they use. They don't always just return to the same one. So they will have a few little burrows that they use, but I do think that they are slightly nocturnal, based on the fact that I've seen the same aardvark in the same area a number of times. So that would obviously mean that they are territorial. Now Tristan is on a not quite a starry night drive, a cloudy night drive, feeling very lonely. I hope Batman is comforting him.
Of course Batman is good company. We know that Batman is so chatty that, well, he just doesn't stop talking, and Batman's been telling me all about his adventures in his hometown where there were crowned eagles, and he went looking for them and fell down and then found a nest of a crowned eagle, and that he had a friend that had a nest across the valley from her. So it's been lovely chat here in this vehicle. And now I don't want to get involved with Byron's stories at this stage, because that's, I think, James and Byron's thing. I think, Byron, you need to be, truthful and honest about this, and you need to really kind of be committed to the relationship that you and James have. You don't want to ruin that. And James was telling me how he likes it when you are there and you get into bed and you tuck yourself in and you put your arms on over the blankie, and then you ask him to ask him to tell you a bedtime story. So it's all kind of a very special relationship, and I wouldn't want to step on any toes there. So don't worry, you don't have to tell me a story tonight. And also, I'm quite far from where you are, Byron. I'm at Inga's, and you're at room number 1, so it's a little bit of a distance. You're not going to be able to walk there at night, and you'd have to drive, and well, I'm sure there's somebody else in the camp that you can tell a bedtime story to. Alice, do you want a bedtime story from Byron? What about you, Craig? So Alice is keeping quiet. Craig is saying no. Byron, I'm afraid I don't know who you're going to tell your lullaby to, but, well, maybe the bush baby that you've got would like to hear your lullaby.
Oh, look at that, a little bush baby. Oh, I'm so happy. Now, I'm surprised because it is quite cold, but they do have to get active and move around at some point. And this one's really being very obliging by staying stationary for us. Oh, where'd it go? I missed it. I was watching it on the screen and it's disappeared. There it goes. Oh, there it is. In the center up there. Is it going to jump again? Oh, it's disappeared behind some bushes. There. No. Oh, sheesh. Amazing jumper. Wait. Let's just hang on a second and see if we get... Oh, it's right up in the tree now. Now, I wonder if this roof is going to be in the way. Oh. Over there. At the ends of the branch. And it's gone. There's about 2 or 3 bush babies jumping around here. Oh, down there it goes. At the bottom it just jumped again. Did you see that? You just see the movement every now and then of it jumping. There it is. Oh, yeah, very, very long tail, Linda. You look at that long tail. Hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can get another view of it. Because it jumped around here somewhere. Like I say, there's actually a few of them I can see jumping around. There's at least 2 or 3, I think. And they've just jumped through the back of those trees. Now, Linda, you mentioned that long tail. And that tail is to help with balance and agility. That's why they've got that long tail. But incredible jumpers. I mean, 2-3 meters easily that they can clear. You might get a glimpse of that eye every now and then. I'm just seeing now. Looks like they've moved off. Well, that was wonderful though. Luckily got a lovely view of it. Very big red eyes. Quite easy to spot at night. I think if you get a glimpse of those red eyes in the spotlight. Oh, that was a nice surprise. Yeah, there's still, every now and then, I shine the torch and I get a glimpse of one. They're still jumping around in there. What's that over there? Wow. Bright red eyes. And they're just jumping. Have a look. Can you see? Oh, the pole. Sorry. Just keep glancing through here. Now, I'll just see if I can get a little glint of an eye again. There we go. There's another one in there. There it is. It's through the back there. Hold on, folks. Can you see it moving down? I think there are 2 there. Machine gun nest, you say little rascal. Yeah, they are indeed little rascals. Jumping around, making it difficult for us. Lower down. Yeah, so there's at least 2 jumping around there at the moment. Where did they go? Sorry, I'm just moving the spotlights a little bit around because it might be easier to spot them then. But yeah, look how agile they are, and they're jumping around and very active at the moment. I love the little bush babies. Very, very cute. Might just get another glimpse of one. There's... You know what, it's so thick there at the moment. They keep hiding behind the trees and behind the bushes. I think through there. Figs, is that pole in the way again? Sorry, I just don't know. There it is. There, can you see there? There he is. Well, there we go. We got another view. Look at that. Tiny little bush babies that are difficult to see, but fortunately we've got Fergs on camera. No, gone. Jumped. Amazing. So quick. Well, there we go. We've got a nice view of them. Nonetheless, that was nice. A nice surprise. Love seeing, like I say, I love seeing these bush babies at night. See what else we can find now. We've ticked off bush babies, so let's just go straight for a leopard. How about that? Alright, now we're going to search for a leopard. Now we're going to go to the other bush baby who's also searching for leopard.
Well, anything really, Byron. We're quite fond of anything, but I don't know if I can be a bush baby and be called big in the same afternoon drive. I think we're a little confused on all of this now, so Byron might have to rethink all of this and decide whether I'm a bush baby or a big human. Well, what did he call me earlier, Craig? I can't remember what it was now, but he referred to me as large in some respects. I can't remember. Now we are driving this newish road. As you can see, it's bouncy and my head is bobbing all over the place, and I look like one of those bobbleheads on a dashboard of a cab in London or New York. But it's because this road is still quite rough in places, and the reason why I came out here is, well, because I don't think anyone really is driving it. It seems to be a new cut road. It's one that I've only discovered this week, and so I thought, well, what better way to find something rare than on maybe a new road? It's a place we haven't checked, and it's a place that doesn't seem like anybody has really driven on in the last few days since I last drove it. So might as well come and have a little look what goes on here at night. You never know, maybe there was a burrow for an aardvark here, or there was a pangolin lurking, and we will find it by taking a bit of a chance. Certainly is a pretty area. We're going to have some beautiful views of sunset if we come here more often. It's kind of pops us out right at the Gari repeater, which is just on our right hand side here, and it kind of goes along this ridge, and you get a beautiful view of the Drakensbergs on the western side. And we know that Shadow spends a lot of time in this area, and so this road is going to be very helpful in our searches for Shadow over the next few months, particularly now that we're not on Arethusa. This is an area where she will spend a bit of time, so it's worth us checking around here and just making sure she's not crept in while we've been checking other areas and isn't just hiding out maybe on a kill or something like that in this area, because there's been no update from her, from the western side. They don't know where she is, so you never know, maybe she's been sitting here the last few days and we'll find her somewhere in this area. Although we've come to the end of our new road, we're now on the old familiar tracks, and you can see it becomes far more smooth in this area. Interestingly enough though, Mvula was seen this afternoon as well, which is very cool. Apparently doing just fine. He's moving around on Simambili by the sounds of it. I couldn't hear exactly which road, but it sounded like Simambili and was heading kind of in our direction. So maybe tomorrow morning we'll get lucky, and I'm pretty sure those are those tracks that I saw yesterday morning that crossed into Arethusa Simambili area. So I'm hopeful that tomorrow morning will be our morning, and we will break this spotted drought that we're having over the last few days, and we'll be able to find something in this area. I think let's go this way, Craig. I'm just trying to decide which route to take, but I think this is the route we're going to take. We're going to head back towards Zoe's and then head northwards to Vuyatela access side. Pina and Safari, you say this is how horror movies begin. Well, there we go. We've started Byron's story for the night. We can at least give him something to work with. So it was a dark, windy, stormy night, and we were driving in the bush looking for animals on a new road, and who knows what we can come up with. Maybe we should get Byron to continue the story, since he's such a fantastic storyteller, and he'll be able to tell us how our story finishes, or what actually develops as we move along our new road in the stormy night. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be stuck out here tonight, because it's going to be freezing. This wind is cold. It is not very pleasant out here. At least we would have a roof though, Craig. We would be able to sort of close that all up, which would be far more pleasant than not having the roof on. It's always important when we get to a junction when you get to a junction not to stall. That's the first important reason. And the second thing is to just check carefully that there's no animals. Whoopsie. I seem to have forgotten how to drive a car this afternoon. Not only can I not find animals this afternoon, but driving is now becoming difficult too. Well, while I try to figure out how to change gears and keep a car from stalling, let's go across to Byron and see what spice he can add to our story.
Tristan, yeah, this reminds me of a story. It was actually a true story about guests on game drive, night drive like this, and yeah, dark evening, and while they were driving around, somehow, I don't know what happened, but all the lights just, funnily enough, just went out. Oh dear, what just happened? This is a little too much like the story. Only joking. But wasn't that good? There we go. So the lights all went out. Let's make that part of the story. And let's see if we can find something though with the lights on, of course. Well, we found a bush baby, so ours is a happy story actually. I mean, I don't think we'll get attacked by the bush babies, that's for sure. They're too cute and fuzzy. No, I think Fergs has watched a lot more horror movies than I have. I'm a scaredy cat. I'm a scaredy cat, so I don't watch the horror movies. Oh, but this is definitely movie weather. I think after game drive, climbing into bed and just watching a movie and falling asleep, hot chocolate. I think perhaps tonight, seeing as it's Father's Day and we're celebrating men or fathers, maybe we need to ask the ladies if they'll make all the men hot chocolate in camp tonight. I wonder if we get away with that. Oh dear. So Alice already has just said, well, I'm not a father. Fair enough. So yeah, none of us are fathers actually, so that doesn't count. Fergs, you're not a father, are you? Yeah, sorry Alice, can you just go again with that please? We missed that. Right now we're gonna go back to our bush baby Tristan, and he says, well, we should go back to him. He's also not a father.
No, indeed not. I'm staying well away from that for the next little bit. Got to try and sort of get my life in order before bringing any children into this world. Now, carrying on from our story, I would suppose a white-eyed, glowing-eyed elephant would add to our horror story for sure. And this young bull is having a good scratch and is being comical. But imagine seeing that if you were sitting in the darkness and there was nothing else around, and all of a sudden this glowing-eyed elephant came out of the bush towards you. Now we're definitely talking horror story of notes. And what have you got there? Have you found yourself a blanket that you're busy just wiping down? It looks like it's got a cloth of some sort. I can't work out what it is. I'll try go back and just see. Now, of course, I can't see a thing at all. So I can't see the elephant. I can't see behind me. Can I go back straight, Craig? Now, we've got these lights that shine on our eyes at night, and that means that I can't see a thing. So I'm going to try and just turn that off so that I can see. Sorry, Craig. I know that you adjusted it nicely for your exposure. Is there anything there? Can you see him? Where's he gone? Him and his face cloth have disappeared into our bush. I wonder what he picked up. It might be a bit of gauze from the road itself. Now, we do get these sort of cloths that get put down on gabions, and so he could be here. I can hear him crunching away, but he's gone quite deep into the bush, so we're going to leave him. Now, earlier Byron was talking about bush babies attacking people, and that he doesn't think that it would happen. Well, Byron, I've got a story for you that is quite entertaining, and I often laugh, and my brother is probably going to hate me for bringing this up, but my brother was at a friend's farm, and they had a bush baby there that they had raised into adulthood, and the bush baby's name was Monster. And Monster was not a well bush baby. Monster was a bit of a crazy psycho bush baby, actually. And Monster came down from the rafters one night and jumped onto my brother's neck and started biting him in the neck. And I think in total he had 27 puncture wounds or 28 puncture wounds in his neck. There was blood everywhere. His shirt was covered in blood. So you do not want to irritate a bush baby. They are vicious things, and the ones that, while they look cute and cuddly, can do quite a bit of damage. And so I always joke around with my brother that he was attacked by probably the least vicious animal out here, and to which he looks at me with this face of complete kind of hatred and tells me that it wouldn't be funny if I was attacked too, and I'd also be scared of them. And so it's now become a family joke where we have to tell him to, you know, be afraid of the bush baby that lurks in the night. So quite funny that he was attacked by a bush baby, but not so funny was the damage that bush baby did. It was quite something that he got absolutely hammered by this poor bush baby. So since then I've been quite wary of them. I certainly don't want to be maimed and bitten and kind of torn apart from the neck by a little animal that looks like a gremlin. I think that would be quite a horrible way to go. Imagine death by a bush baby, Craig. Imagine that. Not so much fun, I don't think. Now I can see our fellow bush babies coming down the road. So Ferg and Biceps Byron are sort of coming along just in the distance here, and we're going to try and see if we can't lights out and sneak up on them, although I'm pretty sure that they would have seen us by now. And I'll use the infrared light to be able to drive, but you can see their light is coming just on the other side here, and it should be quite interesting. Now it's amazing, we are pitch black at the moment. You can't see a single thing, but the infrared is guiding our light, so I'm using my monitor to guide myself down the road, and it's actually incredible how much you can see with this infrared light. It's very cool. So I'm just going to see if we can't sneak up on Byron. Maybe we can give him a fright if we turn off and come flying out the bush like a bush baby. So Storehead, you said you'll never look at a bush baby the same again. I know, it's quite scary when you think about it, when you think that this thing came down and literally jumped on somebody and basically maimed them at the neck. And it must have known for sure that that's a soft point, and a point where it can attack and it will hurt, because to go for the neck itself is something that you would think a lion or a leopard would do. So definitely quite scary to think, given it was also the bigger of the two species of bush baby. So it was the thick-tailed, not the lesser bush baby like the one that Byron saw. Now where's Byron gone? He seems to have taken a turn, although I can see his lights here. Now I don't have any bush to hide in. I was going to try and push our car into the bush and then come running out at him in the darkness and see if him and Ferg reacted, but it seems like I've got nowhere to hide here and they'll see me coming, which is not ideal. Craig, maybe we should hide you and just leave the camera pointing at me, and they'll think that you're in the back here, but you won't actually be. Let's see. Oh, now I'm being blinded. So not only is he trying to spot animals and trying to blind animals, but he's now blinding me as well with this light. So you can see he's got all brights on. He's approaching, and it's like a UFO out of the darkness as he approaches us. Where is... Let's see how long it takes him to turn off the lights. Remember yesterday he did blind me, so it's quite nice that he has actually turned off. Well, I blinded him, sorry, the other way around. So it's quite nice.
Did you sneak up on us?
Well, we were going to, but then I realized that it's in quarantine and there's nowhere to hide.
Hi everyone.
Hi guys.
Hi. Oh.
Lights are going out.
So I was thinking we can add to our scary story
Yeah.
that the people got stuck in the bush, and there was a scary man that came and helped them, and his name was James Hendry.
Well, he is quite scary sometimes.
Exactly. Sometimes.
Cool, Byron. We'll see you later. So Byron's going to carry on his way, edging ever so closer to home. And he was just saying, if you didn't hear him, that he would be very scared if James Henry came crawling out of the night towards him if we were stuck out in the bush in a dark, windy evening. Well, I tell you what, this is what happens when it gets cold and windy. One is our brains become mush. Two, we don't find too many animals, and it just descends into absolute ridiculousness, and we start to talk about stories of being stuck in the night with creepy James Henry, apparently. Batman, why are you laughing at the back there? Have you got something to add to our story, Batman? Come on, you've got to give us a bit of information for our story. We've had something from Ferg, we've had something from Byron. What are you going to add to our story, Batman? You don't know? Maybe the dark coat and the cape. It would be quite scary if Batman came out of the bushes with these kind of glowing eyes while you were sitting on the side of the road. Now, it is that time of the show where we're starting to wind down, and maybe Byron and Ferg have conjured up the scary ending to our story.
So winding down, we are indeed. I'm just scanning the trees a little bit around here just to see if we can't find an owl, perhaps. We hear a lot of owls, especially the Scops owl, pearl-spotted owl. We also hear the white-faced Scops owl. Been hearing a lot of them, but just haven't seen them. So just double-checking these trees for them. But unfortunately not. Now, an ending for our scary story. So I think, as I said, the people were met by a scary man, and let's call this man James Henry. And he turned out not to be so bad, and he led the people safely home. End of story. And actually, yes, he led them safely home, but the end of the story is they got there and Amanda's food had been finished. Horror! Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the drive. It was a little quieter this afternoon. Luckily, we got to see some elephant, some hippo, giraffe. So there was some wildlife out there for us in this cold, windy condition. But thank you very much to Tristan and Batman, the ladies in the final control. And of course, a big thank you to all our viewers for all your questions and comments. Enjoy your Sunday, what's left of it, wherever you are in the world, and your Father's Day. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow for our sunrise safari. Good night and goodbye, everyone.